That's
right,
good.
Thank you.
Each chapter has a DOI, so it's probably up on SciHub.
Yes.
All right, so welcome to the funded proposals room, everyone. I think I'll start getting here. And I have three people on the voting. I have Stephen Whitenstall, Noah Thomas Jones, and Heinz Gassner today. And then the original nominees list, we have a couple other people on there, or one of James Dunseith was there too, but I don't know if he's here today or not, or if he withdrew. I'm guessing he must have withdrawn if he's not here. Okay. So are we all familiar with what works? Everyone gets 5 minutes to make their case why they're going to be the best representative in the Catalyst Circle for the people who had funded proposals or projects with funded proposals. First up on the list is Stephen. So whenever you're ready, Stephen, go for it. I think, do you want me to, wait, before you go off, I want us to give you a heads up when there's only 30 seconds left to time left, or do you want to just do it?
Yeah, give me a heads up, Tyler. That'd be helpful. Shall I start now?
Let me make sure we get a timer ready. I go for it.
Okay, hello everyone. I'll give some experience of Catalyst Circle. My experience of Catalyst Circle goes back to version 1, where it was formed in July of this year, and I started documenting its progress in the Catalyst Circle Oversight Gitbook, and I subsequently became part of the Circle admin team as secretary, minuting Circle meetings from meeting 5 in September 2022, the last meeting, which was in October. And more broadly, for those who don't know, I've been involved in Project Catalyst since March 2020. I started documenting Unity DAO, and then I joined Catalyst Swarm in June and created the Swarm Gitbook. Participated as a host in the first Idea Fest, helped found or contribute to the Catalyst School. I'm now involved in the organisation and development of Eastern Town Hall as well, together with a diverse and talented global team there. My own Fund 5 proposal, well, Fund 5, I submitted a proposal for Quality Assurance DAO, which was to encourage open source collaboration and innovation, and to do a quality assurance assessment of the Catalyst proposal process itself, which is particularly relevant to Funded Cohort. And I've been actively looking at the experience of Funded Cohort through that project. And this proposal was successful in receiving votes and was funded in August. Subsequently, I submitted the 5 additional proposals, including the main one being distributed auditability, which I now trying to work together with other people in the ecosystem to automate audit standards and reporting standards. Also open source training I've been funded for, and also some more documentation proposals. I'm also a co-proposer on a Homeless Hub proposal with Vanessa Cardew, which is being led by her, and also on various Catalyst Swarm and Secret Dex proposals. I've briefly acted as a community advisor in Fund 6, but not much. But I have had some experience there, and I post regularly in Catalyst community Discord servers, and I'm familiar with Zoom, Telegram, Discord, and Google Docs and Sheets. The reason I'm putting myself forward for nomination is really to seek the views of coordinators on Telegram. Well, that's their new name, coordinators, but they're formerly known as Cohort, on Telegram, Discord, and at bi-weekly meetings. My main focus is going to be looking at improvements to the reporting of funded proposals. Collaborated with different Circle representatives to implement a consistent audibility platform. So really I'm putting myself forward for a specific reason, and this was gained from experience of Circle itself, from my own experience of tracking and documenting Circle version 1, and that was a need for focus. There's only a limited amount of time. I also have the time commitment. I'm aware that there is a large commitment of time here if you want to be an effective representative, and I'm going to commit, say, between 8 to 16 hours a week on this. So, I mean, if there's any, are we, I'm not sure how the format works, Tyler. Do we take questions or?
It's up to you. You got about a minute left to take questions if you'd like to.
Okay, I'm quite happy to take questions now because that's really my spiel, if you like. But so if there's any questions, I can finish early.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go on.
What I know you spend a lot of time documenting different sorts of activities within Catalyst. What have you kind of learned from there? Is there anything that's really stood out and while going through that process?
Is that your a circle representative is a representative. They're acting on the kind of wishes of their constituency. The importance of networking and collaborative working with people has come across quite strongly. So you can't go with your own agenda. Your agenda is really led by the needs of the community that you're representing.
Okay, 6 seconds. So just about. That's it. Time's up. All right, so I guess we go right on to the next candidate, and that's Noah Thomas Jones, is who I have on the list. Is Noah here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry.
I know.
I did unmute myself. Hello, how do you do?
Good. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Okay, shall I just go then?
You want me to start the timer and then use the 5 minutes any way you like and go.
Hello, my esteemed colleagues, how do you all do? My name's Noah Jones. I run the Cardano Acropolis Discord channel. I've been participating in Catalyst for a long time. And yes, I was one of the original cohort of the PUDIS Pioneer program. I am currently in the Achala Prism Pioneer program. I'm a developer, and my funded project was the Certificate of Deposit token, which aims to partner with credit unions, nonprofit financial organizations, local, to secure US dollars or other fiat currencies in certificates of deposit that are then fully backed by the NCUA or FDIC. So that way you can convert a dollar into an on-chain stable token that can be easily converted at your credit union or the issuing credit union back into US dollars by any holder. And so the reason why I was interested in joining was the Cardano Circle or Catalyst Circle to apply for this was because there are a number of challenges that I think are currently facing the Catalyst community with respect to funded proposers. For example, there's a shortage of Haskell developers. There's a shortage of PUDIS developers, and while the opportunities in the world that Cardano has the opportunity to solve, a few of those solutions seem to be taking a little while to materialize. And I think a large part of that is due to the absence of the type of talent that's necessary in order to support the funded proposals. I think so. What I would like to do is I would like to represent the funded proposers, find out what other issues that they're dealing with, in order to better augment them and help them to reify the projects that they have been working on. I would also like to reinvigorate the I would also like to reinvigorate the community with respect to developer support. Finding ways to connect individuals over through Catalyst in order to network more people who can then work toward the same goal, I think would also be advantageous. And I'd also like to work on automating the process of Catalyst voting, so that way people can vote through Project Catalyst for proposers in Project Catalyst without having to integrate with IdeaScale, thus decentralizing the platform itself. I think that'd be highly advantageous because a lot of people discuss the potential funded proposals in their Discord chats, and I think that we should support many other user interfaces for potential voters to interact with the proposers and make proposals themselves. So that's my platform. I strongly appreciate all the work that Stephen has done and everything, and that's my pitch. That's why I'm interested in joining the Catalyst Circle.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
We got a minute 30 left for questions. So.
Noah, where are you from?
Gainesville, Florida.
All right.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question. Yeah, I tend to agree with the fact that a lack of Haskell and Plutus developers is one of the main challenges facing funded proposals. What path do you see to improving that? And
so I've been speaking with Tony Rose. He's the head of identity at IOG. So we've been speaking, and I've also spoken with Lars. We've been working together. Currently, I'm in the Atala Prison Pioneers program, and we're on project. We're on using Canvas, which is an online learning environment, an online learning management system. So he'd like to move the Plutus Pioneer program onto Canvas so that we can do, have more support regarding homework. I also have the Cardano Acropolis group, in which that I'm developing to be an incubator, where a bunch of people who are struggling to learn Haskell and Plutus, because it is a huge paradigm shift, can go and do live coding streams, etc., and work together in order to produce various projects. So I think that in a combination of more group-based and project-based learning, and then also a much more deeply structured course approach to the Plutus Pioneers program, I think that we can really amplify and a stronger theoretical. I think one of the biggest limiting factors is people trying to wrap their minds around the architecture of the UTXO model, and I think there's some very easy, concrete ways to conceptualize it that will allow people to start to really expand. So sorry, that's all.
I got to cut you off. That's it.
Yeah, sorry.
Great job. No, it's okay. You had 5 seconds over. You're okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And next we have Heinz.
Yeah, I even prepared a little old-fashioned PowerPoint presentation. So be ready for a little bit alien substance. So my name is Heinz Gassner. The name is easy to remember. I'm name sponsored by a famous global brand. I'm Austrian born and just moving and settling in warm and sunny Malta, not even shown on this map, in Southern Europe. I have always been working very hard, but have some strange hobbies. So one of them was many years of marathon running, which prepared me for a lot of unexpected situations in life. And as an Austrian, always trying to keep the overview by climbing on top of mountain peaks and summits. So that's a bit in a nutshell. Also share a little bit where I come from. I'm quite intercultural in my setup, speak a couple of languages, and I believe strongly in diversity and inclusion. Also, I call it always T-shaped teams, and trying to keep in good touch with my family, even though we are scattered all around the world. So in a nutshell as well, my education skill and experience profile, I'm in the core very much a technologist, have a strong business and legal layer on top of it, and quite some years in industry and value design, business value design segment. So I don't go into any details to bore you with my career. So technically started, then in the 1990s, very interesting startup projects, and the last 22 years I spent in, let's say, quite established global industry organizations. My last 2 stages on my path were at Tetra Sidel, and my last one at AB InBev, the world's largest beverage company, as Global Director for Digital Transformation. And I'm just getting out of this job. I have the luxury to retire early, step by step. So how did I get to blockchain, Cardano, and Catalyst? It started out in my industry engagement, looking into blockchain 2015, also dealing a lot with what is hype, what is reality, what are technical, what's risks, what is risk management in general, and what governance challenges has actually industry to implement blockchain. Had a good touch with IBM and all the players there. I got to Cardano in 2017, infected as many others by Charles, and am investing and a community member since then. Catalyst, I'm in since the very beginning, community advisor since Fund 2, veteran advisor since Fund 3, proposer just now in Fund 6. So with my Fund 6 proposal, it's a bit specific, it's called DLT 360 Risk and Opportunity Radar. That's also a little bit my profile. I'm looking at a more strategic way to support the community. Where I come from, it's about identifying major risks and opportunities and then translate this for the community into what does it mean for mitigating risks, what does it mean for improvement opportunities, and what could it mean for a strategic, well set, let's say, product and innovation portfolio, how to support this process. The idea is to do this in a quarterly, let's say, reporting format. So summary, I'm entering my post-industrial era, and I'm very motivated to contribute. I have this quite long experience, not only in industry, but also in many aspects of global collaboration. And currently, I'm also in a postgraduate program at the University of Malta, trying to come up with some interesting colleagues in an overall DLT assessment and rating framework. So my ambition to support Catalyst process is really in helping the challenge settings, the proposers, and the proposals to be part of a more strategic program, which I think there is quite some opportunity to help together to optimize.
30 seconds.
Yeah, so I'm at the end anyway, so I'm happy to be here as a bit, let's say, still outside candidate. I promise to be a very active player, and I'm really hoping for supportive votings from your side.
All right, 10 seconds to go. Any question? Question? I'll probably not have enough time to ask, but. All right, that is it. So I guess now the next step is that we all have a chance to vote. So I'm going
Tyler, including the nominated.
Yeah, I believe so. Everyone has a chance to vote. Yeah.
Yeah, most voting systems you can vote for yourself,
Yep,
right? So
Yep. You can. I think it's kind of encouraged to vote for the one. Don't just vote for yourself if you don't believe, unless you really believe you are the best candidate. If like someone blew you away, then it's probably okay to vote for them. But yeah, the form's in there. Nadim had posted it in the chat. I'm not sure, has everyone had a chance to see where it is? It's a simple Google form, and always click on it and fill it out.
Very simple. That's good.
Yep, pretty easy. And then once we're all done, then I just have to let Peter know in Discord it's done. Then he's to tally it. If there's a tie, then we have to do a revote or a secondary vote with another form.
I just want to say all three of you are amazing candidates. I think we're really lucky to have this wide choice. So unfortunately, there's not more people here to vote, but thank you, all three of you, for stepping up. That's amazing.
Yeah, I completely concur. It's really tough decisions to make here.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah, no, I mean, Heinz and Noah are impressive candidates. Yeah. And
We're very fortunate. We're all here to support each other and support
Yeah.
the mission and contribute our ideas.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 3-month term, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
3 months, yeah, and
not
then
that long. So hopefully whoever doesn't get voted in today is still interested 3 months from now.
yeah,
Absolutely.
there's iterations. So be interesting to see what the character of the next circle is going to be like. So yeah.
Yeah, we have actually 3 people with a quite, let's say, more, let's say, a process, more technical and more strategic. So I think we should help together anyway.
Yeah,
Whoever
absolutely.
is-
Yeah.
Has everyone in the room voted that wants to vote? Anyone that hasn't voted, say aye. Okay, I think we're good.
Oh, Nadeem, we can't hear you. You muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we're just checking if there's a tie or not. Just give us less than a minute. We're good to go. Thank you guys. You were all amazing.
All right. Yeah, thanks everyone. I think we can all leave the room and just go back.
Thank you. Thanks, Tyler, for hosting.
All right. Yeah, thank you. It's
Thank
the
you.
first time hosting. Thanks everyone for coming. All right.
Yeah, well, say la vie.
Yeah, so at the end of 5 minutes, we'll count it. We'll make sure that it matches the room, the number in the room, and then we'll finish it. We're just waiting to hear back from the voting coordinator.
Actually, I remember there was in the email, there were a lot more people, I think 6 or 7 that were nominated.
Yeah, so the issue with the email is that like these types of things, we had to confirm that people actually wanted to vote. So we sent out numerous emails and contacts to the people, more and more aggressive of subject lines and bolds to make sure people saw it. And unfortunately, we at a certain point have to do a cutoff. And so we could only validate the people who confirmed, and just out of respect for the other candidates. And so that's why you saw a diminishment from the original group. We're hoping that as the admin team gets a little more solidified and we can get a domain name and emails, things won't go missed, because if you get something from me, how would you know that it's anything other than a personal email? So these are all types of things that we're iterating and working on to reconcile or address in the next iteration.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
actually
coming up
why.
soon.
That's actually why I made a PGP key extra just for this mail. I wrote you in a PGP so that it's a secure line, some kind. But yeah, actually, I needed to look into my spam or folder, and I found it in my spam folder. Actually, the email.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have all the votes have been cast. So thank you, everybody. We can all go back to the main room now. So when you go to leave room, you can just go to leave breakout room and not leave meeting, and that will take you back to the main room. I'll wait here in case anyone has troubles, and then we can.
Bravo.
Thanks, Ricardo.
So how do we get back into the other room? It's not
Yep. So go to the bottom and you'll hit.
The climate change issues, or on providing real financial support for artists through the NFT space, that is not been easy, in the past.
So our votes are all cast. The voting form is closed. Thank you all for participating. We have exactly 18 votes. So we have been doing very good here. And, so thanks to us, I guess, and thanks to Kenrick and obviously Philip, but basically all of us. We're supposed to go back to the main room. Obviously, it's always nice to be in a breakout room and talk to each other and not stop ever, pretty much. But the program will continue in the main room, so we would be whoever wants to, and probably gonna close the breakout room too at some point.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you all. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, let's go back to the main room and we'll continue talking there.
Channel and maybe visit some Swarm sessions again. Yeah.
You're always welcome, and happy to see you also involved in the CAs. I see you around very often.
Yeah. I recognize you were sometimes in a Telegram group.
Which of them, Danny? How much telegrams do we have in the community?
Yeah, that's also.
We have a decentralized community. We did it. We're all over the place.
Not enough? Is that the correct answer?
No, don't that more.
I must just say all the I want to ask Daniel actually, how can he manage all these groups all the time? Is he alone or there are clones of him?
I don't kiss and tell.
Who tells you that Danny is real? Who tells you this Danny is real? Huh?
Danny's actually sleeping. I'm here on his behalf. Number 6578-Danny2.
Exactly.
When Charles made a comment that Dor wasn't sleeping, I almost sent him a book on sleeping because that's not going to work in the long term.
That's true. But happy you made it.
Right.
Normally you set the Saturdays and the Sundays.
I agree with Johnny. Sleep is the superpower.
I'm pretty sure Danny's a deep fake. I'm pretty sure they've sorted it out. just random people sitting in front of a camera and just deep faking.
Phil, I thought we had an understanding.
Oh yeah, sorry. Did I let the cat slip out the bag?
I'll publish your picture.
Yeah, Lucio might have just screenshotted something there.
I almost missed out on this session actually, or I would pass it 1 hour late. I would come 1 hour late because I missed up with all the timing zones, and I switched time zones like a few days ago. So for me it was especially confusing. So I need to check again. I think my next thing is to take a bracelet clock just for UTC time to put it on my arm so I know.
Yeah, I almost did that too. And actually, as the meeting was getting started, I was looking at my Google Calendar, and I swear it doesn't seem to be reporting UTC time correctly, or something's off.
That's
Google
right.
Calendar doesn't seem to be in sync with UTC.
No, you know why? I know. I also realized it's not 2 hours plus, but for my location now, but it's 1+ because of winter time. Because we are still doing this stupid thing with the changing of clocks.
It's only 1 week. It's 1 week misalignment.
Yeah.
Ours changed tonight at 1 o'clock, so we'll be back in line. Don't worry, but it's just that confusion for the 1 week.
Hey, I've got a question for Tevo and this chain voting. Maybe
go ahead, Phil.
Do you want to give us an explanation and tell us how it went or it's going?
Yes, so we tried it, but the results weren't that great. So it was, in a sense, nice failure. The onboarding method wasn't that good compared to the Google form here. You just went in, where in the JMode application, there was a registration in front. And the second barrier, there were since we don't have like UI expert and not we wanted to the work it work on blockchain first. So the Shears button to find the election wasn't really that well put in place. So that was another point where like people started falling off. And the presentation itself, I shouldn't have done it in a live because I didn't do it in incognito mode. So when I used admin account, I logged off my test account, what I showed everybody. So that probably created confusion. I still like I'm I don't know if it's the correct word, but bullish on the idea that this application will eventually work to create the people, the election itself, putting like what are the seats, how long it lasts, how the voting method is working. This was quite a nice experience. So we have learned and improved the back end and the admin side of that. So need to put more emphasis on the user experience who just wants to vote.
Thank you. Are you going to explore something for the next one in 3 months? Is it?
Yeah. So we will introduce a few proposals also because right now it's put on Hyperledger and maybe community is interested to put it on a Cardano. And since I already see that there are like Nami wallets and the game changer wallet, so we could already leverage existing ideas and tools to connect the like people and wallets and see how that would work. So yeah, I see there is a lot of potential. So it just depends where do I put most of my time. So I think Catalyst Circle is one, BJunify, and Swarm and Catalyst School are the main focus points of my next 3 months.
Curious to see. And maybe for Catalyst Circle version 3, we have already a better voting in place. So all of the rooms are done. All the votings have been fair. So means the most of our really nice community played fair. We don't have any big differences between the participants and the casted votes. So thanks a lot. And hey, there have been several nominees for several groups. Just one of you will be voted for one of the seats. So as you're all interested, all the nominees have been interested in being representative for their group. And we know that governance is a lot about education. Stay close to each other. In 3 months, we will have a next Catalyst Circle version 3. And we know that the transition from one circle to the next is a little bit complicated. So the nominee, the people, those who are elected for Catalyst Circle version 2, maybe stay in contact with the other nominees and maybe keep them close in the process, allow them to have an experience already, and to allow them to have a little bit of better start maybe in their time when they will renominate themselves for Catalyst Circle version 3. So help each other, take care for each other, educate each other, and help the Catalyst Circle overall to take a nice shape over its iterations. So, said this. Cool. We have our elected members for the Catalyst Circle version 2. We'll post it on Danny. I will send you the stuff on Monday because tomorrow you shouldn't do anything. Even clone Denny's have to sleep from time to time. And now, normally we said we have a coffee break. So let's chill some minutes, take some 5-10 minutes off, and then we hop on in fireside chats.
I think it will help if you give us a time when we come back, just so we are all on the same page, Felix.
In UTC, please.
All the time zones, please, to avoid confusion.
Oh, guys.
Use only
Including
minutes.
daylight and standard.
Use only minutes, please.
Screen share a timer.
Screen share timer. Dude, you make a coffee break really complicated, you know?
Okay, coffee break's over.
Exactly, let's say. Right now it's 7:13 UTC. 6:13 UTC. Let's say 7 minutes. On 20, we move on. Fine for all?
Thank you.
And we
think
come
there's
back here,
also
right?
time zones with half an hour off.
Matthias, stop, stop it. Just let's mute this, guys.
Yeah, time is relative.
Exactly. Especially in moments of time changings in different time zones, then yeah.
Especially during elections.
And during elections. So, I even have a coffee. Great. Do you expect a host for the coffee break?
Music.
Music. Oh, music is always nice. What do you? Let's
If you give the co-host, I will drop a bomb.
If there's anyone here on the challenge teams, don't forget to fill in the consent form circulated yesterday. Thank you. I'm going through it right now.
Good point.
Basically, you just need to put your email address 3 times in there. In the challenge team form.
I'll do better next time.
This will be something really interesting to see as well, how the challenge team will evolve. Challenge teams.
So Felix, will you throw us in the rooms, in the fireside chat, or we choose fireside chat?
They will be named.
Perfect. Just like before.
Exactly. One for governance perspectives and the other one for across the chains.
I want to be in both.
Yeah.
Like really, really. I mean, you've got all these amazing speakers and guests. So
Maybe, Mihaela, let's walk on one for the future. Governance perspectives across the chains.
right on. Okay. Cool.
Oh, really? Let's do it. This would be
I like the comments. No, yeah, I also like the comments. I'm doing parallel things, so it's.
Rick, no, the breakout rooms are not open yet. We'll wait still 4 minutes until everyone is back, and then we will open the rooms again.
The book club idea is great.
You're right, Matthias. We should. A good session always has some music. We still need if you know a musician or if you are a musician, we still need an epic music track for kickoff each town hall. So if there's a whatnot Hans Zimmer or whatnot here around.
Yeah, did you see the Dune soundtrack is amazing. It's a bit too dark, though.
Can we steal it?
I don't think anybody would notice if we did. Maybe we can.
Hey, Derek, make sure
warp
you
it a
pick up
bit.
some donuts here on our coffee break.
We need to get Hans Zimmer into the community.
To make a mix with Paul Oakenfold.
Let's submit a challenge. music adaptation challenge. Catalyst culture challenge.
Oh yeah, no, we need the Catalyst soundtrack for every phase of governance. You know, for innovation phase, it's more like, you know,
fantasy,
free jazz, improv, you know, I don't know. For governance decision, it's like intense, like
oh yeah, so some
I could try to motivate my son to work on it, but he doesn't listen to my advice anymore.
Send him over to us. We will manage it.
If you're Grateful Dead fans, then his band could make a soundtrack.
Oh, what? Oh, we need a really epic music so far. The CA stage phase. Some really nerdy, hardcore stuff.
40 plus years ago, I played a Barry sax, if you could use that, in a jazz band. I don't think I could remember how to play anymore, but you never know.
I have an idea. I don't know if there are any Trekkies here, like people who watch a lot of Star Trek. So do you remember like this, I don't know, I think it's the Next Generation one, where they visit people who communicate with like little digital, like little digital gadgets. They have no voice. They don't communicate with the voice, so they communicate with sound of these digital things. And this one episode is about these people, and I cannot remember which episode exactly, but it's really weird kind of. What?
I think it was the Binars.
Binars, I think so, yeah. And that scene with them, it's like really funny, and the sound that they make, it's like a cool tune or something like that. If I couldn't find it, I don't know which episode is it, but it's really weird thing to see. And it reminds me of communication between CAs, you know, when the governance or when the assessment phase comes, you know, it's always like everybody's fighting with each other, but also communicating with each other, and it's fun and crazy kind of collaboration. Yeah, like binaries.
And coffee break is over. We go back to work. No, we do not work. We just do passion-driven weird stuff. Well, again, congratulations. Thanks all. You have really fair community. That's amazing. We don't even need on-chain votings. Come on, we can run with Google Polls forever because we are fair, making things much easier. Trust me. Great. All right. So again, nominees. One of you is elected. Stay close to each other, please. Teach each other. Share your experience. Share your skills. Share your knowledge. What you will learn through the next 3 months. One thing as well, the elected member from the
Catalyst building dynamic network models or forecasting real-world behavior.
Yes, why not? Good point. Anyway, yes, the Catalyst Circle members from Circle version 2, they will stick around through the next month as well to be there for you to, if you have any questions to them from the previous time, from Catalyst Circle version 1, they still have the pleasure to stick around again, 1 month volunteer. Yeah, we are there for you. But yes, count on them. They will be there for anything what you need. The first meeting will happen for the Catalyst Circle version 2 will happen on next Thursday at 17 UTC. You will receive an email as well. You received an email already, I think. So make sure to be there. And as well, stay close to the community. I would encourage each of you, each of the elected people, take a room maybe in the next after town hall, present yourself to your own community, start already to communicate with them, start already to censor, hey, how is your role working in communication with the community? Take it serious. Your funded proposal, you have to report, you have to You're accountable as well. And yes, there we go. So breakout rooms number 2. Today we have, wait, cool. I have some slides there. So, oh no, I don't even need the slides. I see. Give me a second. Yeah. First room will be with Dr. M and Professor J about governance perspectives. Feel free to chime in. It's about everything what covers. Well, oh no, maybe Mihaela, do you want to give a short intro about the room?
Yes, so as I mentioned in the beginning, if you paid attention, Felix, I will deepen into the questions. So I will follow the questions, of course, yes, which were raised. And for now, I grouped them into topics. So that's how I will start. And from those sparks, I think we will make a huge fire. All right, join us.
This sounds amazing. I also want to join your room.
I want to join your room too. we will share afterwards.
Exactly. And in the second room, we have when do I need to click? We have Antonio Nadella from the IOTA community. He's working for the IOTA Foundation. Michalis from the Web3 community. He's working with the Web3 Foundation. And I took myself the right to say, because I started some months ago, to reach out to them and ask, hey, guys, what happens if we sit together from different communities, come together, we are facing the same challenges, we are facing the same problems. What happens if we start to communicate with each other? And Michalis, maybe you want to say something. Michalis, you're here?
I don't think he can unmute himself.
Now you can. Normally you should.
Okay, yeah. I want to say that I want to join the other room.
No. No.
I'm kidding. Felix promised a live chat about transition of power, and that's what everyone who joins will get. Just exchanging ideas on how that transition of power can work on chain, and the challenges, the benefits, and whatever comes of it, I guess. And to whomever is not in that room, I just want to say it's a great honor that I'm invited to your event, and it's a great pleasure for me to be here. For anyone who does join, I will repeat that in the room.
I think the honor is on our side as well. And you see, I told you, we are not maximalists. We are open people, always open for conversation. Don't laugh on us because we do Google Votes, but all right. Okay.
Hey, it worked, didn't it? So
exactly, it worked. All right, the rooms are open. Mihaela, Jeremy in room 1, governance perspectives, and Michalis, Antonio, we are moving in across the chains, and hopefully will not stay the last cross-chain conversation. So I will hop there as well for everyone.
I cannot see the room, Felix, my room.
So
I can only see the people. I don't know what's happening. Can you put me in the room?
I will put you in the room.
Thank you.
Can you send me off as well, please? Because I can't see the breakout.
Oh, now I feel better.
Very difficult to choose. We should do it.
Yes, I agree. I'm exactly with you. Impossible. I mean, and this is, kind of related to voting, I think, in a way, because you have to choose, yes. And at least in my room, there were 2 excellent candidates. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, choices. This is an interesting topic as well. So, Jeremy, are you here? Did you make it?
Yeah, I managed to.
Okay, because I have the questions on my screen and I don't have two screens, so I I cannot see everybody. But I do not know when to start and how long will it take until everybody joins. But you know, it is past 28 past something at my end, so we will start at past, just so we give everyone more time to join. That was really good. I just wanted to share in the meantime, you know, I had an amazing experience, and I don't know if Jeremy, if you joined the voting chambers, but it was amazing. I mean, I am so inspired by the candidates which presented in my room, and I just chose it absolutely randomly. And anytime when I am, or every time when I am immersed in the community, to call it this way, I don't know, I just leave so energized. It's just such an amazing environment, and with such amazing people and dedicated. So I just wanted to praise the community before we get started. So it's speaking of, you know, being, it's uplifting. I think this energy of being is transferable, and inspiration is a thing which I'd like to explore a bit more. And I think this is an environment where we are exploring many aspects, many facets. So it is past at my end. How about you, Jeremy?
It's past here too. It's past something, that's for sure.
Would you be ready to get started?
Absolutely.
You think we have all the people? How can we know?
We seem to have a quorum. Yeah.
We seem, yes? Okay, okay. So Kendrick, do you think, okay, now that you mentioned, Rick, you wanted to say something? There's a raised hand, but okay.
Yes, I'm wondering if chat is disabled for me. Is that normal or?
Yeah, I also didn't have it in the other breakout. Probably in breakout rooms, it's disabled. But we will use our voices here. so I will give you
adjust that. Someone should be able to adjust.
I will go check with Felix or someone other.
Thank you. I will give anyway. I will give everyone the opportunity after every topic to bring more questions as they pertain to the topic. And when we only have 2 topics, so do not worry. After all the topics, we will open for more questions, comments, and discussion, and so on. So yeah. So as I was saying, yes, and I've been also thinking during this voting when I was now in the voting room that it's so important who we vote. But on the other side, if I'm looking at it in a certain way, with distributed power, I think the keyword is distributed here. The importance of who we vote is a bit less critical, and I don't want to minimize anything here. But I think because distribution means that, you know, even if, let's say, I didn't make the right choice because a candidate fooled me and misrepresented themselves, then I can say that at least I will have a bigger say in the end on matters, because the power will be distributed, and then I will have more of a say. But this is something which is like not a question for you, Jeremy. This is just a thought, maybe for reflection later on, and maybe in another discussion we can continue. Can everybody mute themselves because there's some background noise? Sean, I don't know if you are there.
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we will get started, and thank you so much for joining us. And again, I'm so sorry that we cannot be all together, and I wanted to be with the others as well. Everything is just so interesting today. And thank you for having us, and especially thank you, Professor Jeremy Pitt. I'm so grateful that you are with us and the community echoes that. So there have been, as you have seen, a few questions which were not easy, as you remarked before. We don't like what is easy here, just to set things straight. And we're playing with a lot of things. Speaking of fireside chat, we're playing with a lot of fire also, and maybe for the future of humanity, who knows? But we are brave, and I think this is a big characteristic of this community, which I admire so much. One issue, and I group them in two. Yes, so one is related, in my opinion, to social justice, but it's social justice in a sense from how do you measure fairness? Yes, which you also mentioned, Jeremy. That question to me is related in many ways to what I call meritocracy. And I know, just for everyone else, me and Jeremy do not always agree on everything, which I love, of course. and we do not necessarily agree on meritocracy and stuff like that. So I will read the questions, which I think are related to this, to fairness, how do you measure it, connected to social justice, and in the context of what I see as meritocracy, that is everybody to be rewarded for contribution, including with votes, in my opinion. So someone asked, how do you avoid that an expert class takes over? I don't know. And this is, again, yes, it touches on meritocracy. So if someone contributes more as an expert, yes, then they will kind of rise to the top. And this may be a problem, maybe not. I don't know. Why would we want to avoid that? Especially if they take over. So the question is not very clear, but how I understand, if they take over, will they fail in making specific complex decisions? I don't think they are related, these 2 points, and I think practically they are disjoint. I trust.
If you allow me to clarify, I raised this question.
Thank you.
So I see kind of a dilemma. Either you have experts taking over complex questions, or if a system avoids that, it's a big risk that some complex questions get not to decisions or get into wrong decisions. Let me raise, for example, the dilemma between funding applications on top of Cardano and really fostering the development of the underlying layer 1 protocol. So there could be a tension between foundational developments, because that needs a lot of knowledge and a lot, I think no voter is ever able to understand that. That was my kind of dilemma that I formulated.
And that's of course, I call it technocracy, yes. And this is an issue which we have in our community, because at the Eastern Town Hall during the Cardano Summit, they raised that and they said, well, not everybody is taught in school. We have the best software developers here, but they are not taught Plutus and Marlowe and all this. So now, it's like, is this becoming a technocracy? So it's a very important question. So thank you for the clarification. There are a few more, Jeremy, which are related to this as you are preparing your answer. So I think they are related, and they may not be. Please correct me if I'm wrong, of course. I know that you will do, even without invitation. So how to mitigate conflict of interest when voting? And then there was like a comment, but I will just go to the question. And this is, I think, a suggestion. Can we give voting shares to local commons maintainers and engagers? And that would kind of mitigate the conflict of interest. I think that's what the suggestion was here. This is the first tranche of questions, Jeremy, if you would like to.
Yeah, thanks, Mihaela. And again, can I just express my gratitude for being involved and engaged with this, and thanks everybody for addressing these deep issues on a Saturday evening. Because but okay, so
I hope you didn't have wine during the break.
No, I know I didn't.
Okay,
But so the question, Mihaela says we don't agree on everything, but I think yes we do. But
That's very good. I like that.
I didn't go there yet. Okay, now I know what to do.
But therein lies the paradox. Okay, so the thing is, if I could take these questions, so very interesting question. So I'll start with expertise and get round to meritocracy. Okay, so the thing is, to some extent, it really depends on the type of question that you're asking. Yeah. So it turns out that there are some types of question. You've probably heard of the wisdom of the crowds. Okay. So this is the idea where guess the number of jelly beans in a jar, guess the weight of the cow. Yeah, where you don't ask, you don't need expertise, and what you can do is that you can just average out a number of independent guesses, and you'll get something quite close to the right answer. So this is where you open it up to public participation, and you take an average, and generally speaking, according to this guy Condorcet's theorem, if they've got a better than average chance of getting the right answer, then the more people that you have, the more likely you are that you will get the right answer. Yeah. Now, for that type of question. Now, the other type of question, of course, is one where you have you need expertise. Yeah. So the example I always give here, well, two examples actually. One is, if you're flying a plane and both pilots are taken ill at the same time, you've got this big jumbo airliner. You don't want a wisdom of crowds, the solution about what should we do next, right? You want another pilot, okay? So, but here's the rub. I think that when you're questions of the kind, I think, Heinz, that you asked, these are expert requiring questions, but we don't yet have the expertise. So we're kind of having to learn on the job, as it were, to get for the expertise to emerge. Yeah? Now, even in assuming that we can do that, it turns out that from my reading of this, there are a whole range of possible mechanisms that you can do if you ask a question. And it depends on the question. So you can do this independent guess aggregation. You can do deliberation. Again, Aristotle's been mentioned already so many times. He had a way of doing it, called relevant expertise aggregation, which basically means that you delegated to the experts, but then you came back to the public to try and decide it. But the key thing here, of course, actually, is that you can't let the experts get stuck. So it's like with many of these things. Okay, so if it turns out they're effective and they're doing well, but then there's the risk of groupthink and the risk of them taking over. And this is why I said, it's about revocable consent, because you can't necessarily have these people always standing in judgment of the issues. So actually one of the things that I'm working on at the moment is a simulation of exactly this kind of thing. We have a social network where we're basically asking different types of questions to it. Some require aggregations, some require expertise. And what we're observing is that, so long as you've got dynamic expertise, so that you can change who you think is the expert as a product of the questions that get asked in the social network, then you keep on being able to track the right answer. But as soon as you freeze the expertise, you stop that core, fluid expertise. Nice comment, Dan, thank you. That's when the ability to answer the question properly starts diverging from the correct answer. So these issues are really fundamental, and we are doing some experiments on exactly this, based on Mihaela, you know Andrei Noack. It's his theory called the psychological theory of social influence.
And it's really crucial because he's got in the way that the social networking works in being able to answer these questions. Because some of a lot of the theories of social influence in psychology, for example, make this assumption that there's an information source that is attempting to influence targets. But actually, and in the situations that we're describing here, sometimes there are influences that are seeking sources by whom to be influenced. And you actually need both of those processes inside a social network with this dynamism of the expertise in order to be able to track the answer.
I think that also touches on which I was mentioning. Yes, and
yeah.
That kind of influence.
Sure. Yeah. Inspiration, innovation. Yeah. So this would be. I mean, as I do not pretend to have all the answers by any means, but I think that this kind of space of exploration, a framework where you could actually say, well, what sort of question are we asking? Is it a quantitative one? Is it a qualitative one? Does it require expertise? Do we have the expertise? Interesting. As Kenrick says.
Yes, exactly. So there have been many comments written, but if anyone feels like completing a thought or contributing to this particular topic and conversation, please just step in now.
And Rick makes a very interesting point. I mean, he says, this is where, also a certain element of responsibility comes in, because you have to decide whether you do have expertise to stand in judgment on this question or not. And of course, I apologize to every European in the room, but you can see where this sort of thing goes wrong. If you start asking for public participation in a question that specifically demands expertise. So, do you want to move to the fairness question?
So I'm just last call. If there are any more comments, raise your hand. Just speak now. Yes,
so
please.
who defines whether the question requires expertise or not then?
This is where the reflection comes in, because you ask the community. It's one of those questions, actually. Yeah. Yes. Indeed, yeah. If I could, so there's a bit of a glib answer, but could I try and answer that question by actually turning to the fairness issue?
Yeah, this is the issue on the table.
Well, yeah. Because you see, the thing is, one of those questions that you might want to ask this aggregated group is it fair? Yeah. And this is actually known as interactional justice. Yeah. And the thing what you're looking for there, in effect, is not necessarily expertise now, but you're trying to get an answer from lived experience. So you're basically saying to these people, well, here you are, you're supposed to be in this organization that is supposed to make sure that those who are affected by the rules participate in the outcome, the selection, the selection, the application, and the enforcement of those rules. And you suffered or enjoyed the consequences of those rules. Do you think it was good? Do you think it was fair? So this is an extremely qualitative expression, and it's not really one that can be decided by aggregation. It's not really one that can be decided by expertise. It's one that has to be decided by the lived experience of those who went through it.
Politics of being, yes.
Absolutely, Mihaela, absolutely. Yeah. And so there are basically two ways that you can go about defining fairness. You can either define it from a procedural point of view externally, or you can define it from an internal point of view by asking people, how do you feel about it? And And the thing is, with the procedural point of view, you can come up with all sorts of metrics to do this. So you can start looking at sort of like the inclusivity. You can look at the representation. You can look at balance. You can look at cost. Various different things, and this is what I believe that the democracy index does when it starts applying these things to countries. It looked like getting all these values that you could almost sort of create your democracy dashboard over and see how they're changing over time. But at the same time, what you're really looking for as well is this notion of whether there's been consent or not, sort of meaningful and revocable consent. And the other thing, and so this, Mihaela, is where I would answer your question about the meritocracy comes in, because there are these various different ways that that you can choose to distribute rewards and punishments and so on. At least in one of the philosophical texts that I looked at. And this is due to Nicholas Rescher, and he basically sort of said, throughout history, there have been like 7 different ways that that you can categorize different ways of allocating rewards, and one of those is actually according to merit. And so merit is one of these principles of distributive justice that deserve acknowledgement in this particular circumstance. Then you'll get a meritocracy. If, on the other hand, you think it's according to their productive contribution or their socially useful services by providing expertise, then we're more likely to see a technocracy emerge from this. So there
But
you
I think, to me, it's one and the same, Jeremy. I just wanted to clarify this because so merit is how much I can contribute to a certain circumstance, right? So I think having expertise is part of the merit there. Tell me if, because you seem to make a distinction there, that would be a separate thing.
You could, I could quite imagine that you could conflate them if depending on your definition, but there's a difference between.
At least tell me what is the difference. Yes.
Well, so one could be that you're having the qualification, and the other one you've actually used it and used your knowledge to provide the community, with a service which they recognize.
And that is the reputation. Okay.
For example.
Okay. I get it now. Okay. Makes sense.
So one is having services, and the other one is people valuing a service that you have provided. But there's a lot of hands up, Mihaela, to that.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't want to interrupt you, but I would like to play a little game here on fairness. So if you know who raised if you raise the hand before others, speak now. Because I didn't keep track, and if you, Jeremy, know, you can maybe name them. Otherwise, I want to go on, to experiment now with our internal compass.
I think Ricardo, Rick, and we raised almost at the same time.
Okay, so. Well, you mentioned an order there, so we will go with Ricardo, Rick, and you. Okay. If they are, you raise the hand at the same time. Thank you so much.
Self-organized chairing, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I hope it worked well. Yes. Ricardo.
Bennett. Ricardo, can I talk to Jeremy?
Yeah.
I have a question. Jeremy, I see the problem as hierarchy. And you started off tonight's presentation talking about artificial intelligence. And I am adamant that we can trust artificial intelligence. It is robots driving cars than human beings. So if we can configure an AI system, it's the only way to avoid hierarchy. We answer to the robot, we can dispute what the robot spits out, but at least there is an unbiased voice. Any comment?
Thanks very much for the question, Ricardo. I would say actually that there are occasions when you want hierarchical systems. In fact, yeah, but that's not the problem for me. The problem is under certain circumstances you want a hierarchical system, but it's not being able to move back away from a hierarchical system that causes problems. Okay, it's being stuck in a particular form of governance that is no longer appropriate to the kinds of problems that you're trying to solve. Yeah. On the issue of AI and trust, it largely depends that you're on the data that you're using for these systems, but in my lab, we have done experiments on moral dilemmas that we've got people to play games with. We tell somebody that's an AI and they've got to choose the right moral judgment. And we can get somebody to choose the right judgment and then tell them the AI thinks something else and they will change their minds. And I find that I can manipulate people like that terrifying, because actually I know that's exactly what's going on inside some of these social media platforms at the moment.
Oh yeah, no question. But this is the evolution of AI. I'm just sort of asking for comment down the line. I actually have faith. I mean, it's taken Tesla 10 years to prove that it's safer having a robot drive a car. And you know, the ultimate thing is the human mind will always be superior. That's my security.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one.
But gentlemen, yes, this is
a
conversation about governance. I don't want to go too deep into that because you know I'm also an AI expert and I can argue on this for a century. But thank you so much, Ricardo. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you,
So
Jeremy, for the time. Thank you, Jeremy, very much.
What I wanted to mention here to Ricardo's question with hierarchies, there is a related kind of moving slowly, slightly into, not the next topic, I think it's related, but there was a question on how do you build in agility, evolutionary adjustment into such organizations and organizational models. So I don't know if you have an answer to that, Jeremy, and then I will move to Rick. And
I do. Can we? It's up for a long time, so.
Okay. Okay, so we move on. Yes, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Rick, please.
Well, for me, when I think about meritocracy and DAO in central, for me, the central thing is how can we maximize collective intelligence? And what can we learn from everything we have been doing in the way of governance and also business and traditional styles? I follow Jim Collins a lot in his findings, because he did for decades with the whole team. He saw
the ecosystem, the Polkadot ecosystem itself, and of course the greater ecosystem that includes parachains and all of the projects building, but all of these communities regarding of funding or enacting general changes in on-chain in the community have to go through the same governance governance process, whether it's submitting a proposal to the council or submitting a public proposal to be voted. We don't have that on-chain governance that perhaps is a bit fragmented, and it serves the purposes of a specific subset of the community, like, for example, a community that's interested in staking mechanism, or a community that is interested in the social impacts of Polkadot or the blockchain in general. That's definitely an interesting approach, and I'm looking forward to see what your experiment, what results it brings. Yeah, that's all I had. Sorry, I thought I had something more, but yeah, that's all.
Maybe let's experiment together also. Say, hey, you are doing your stuff in Polkadot in Web3. We are doing our stuff in Cardano. And I think there's a huge opportunity by looking already, hey, because we are, as we know, we are facing the same challenges. We are facing the same problems. But everybody here in the room, how well do we know what the other chains are doing? We are mostly focused on our ecosystem. Fortunately, we are not maximalists, but anyway, by our interests, we are focusing on the stuff we are doing in our environment. I think we can learn a lot by saying, hey, Michalis, look, we have this problem here. Do you have the same problem? Yeah, we have. Hey, what has been your approach to solve this problem? Did you solve the problem? No, but we take this approach. Oh, okay, you take this approach. All right. So by say already, how could a cross-chain environment of collaboration could look like, where communities can come together, not by being maximalist, not by saying, we are Cardano and we will rule the world and we are the Ethereum killer. Fuck off, no. To say, hey, there are so great folks in each of those communities, huge skills, huge commitments, huge engagements. What can happen by coming together as well? So, but Danny, Philip, you want to say something? Sorry.
I think Philip had a hand up first.
No, I already spoke. Go ahead, Danny. I'll ask later.
Yeah, I think, thank you for being here, Michalis. I think having these conversations is extremely refreshing. Not very often we get those conversations in environments that we can actually, ping from one another, pick up each other's brains and that sort of thing. Most of the time what we see is like, you have Twitter wars and all kinds of social media wars, where people got their truths and they present their agendas and whatnot. And maybe I wanted to bite a little bit into that semantics. One of the most common comparisons that people talk about, especially in terms of governance, it's about token distribution, right? And I wanted to pick your brains a bit, like how does Polkadot view, like the Polkadot community view the token distribution within the Polkadot ecosystem? Because I think we often see all kinds of those graphics being compared about how much is allocated to actually the public sale and how much is it, let's say, to the private VCs or other entities. And if you see any kind of issues with regards to the governance model that perhaps needs to be instituted that reflects those power struggles within, because I think, no one is really immune to these things, but where's your headspace around that?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Well, as I said before, with any proof of stake chain, the concern of concentration of power to those who hold the tokens is definitely a concern. My personal concern is what happens with exchanges, because a lot of people have their funds on exchanges, and exchanges as entities hold a lot of funds. So if they wanted to, they could affect situations. Thankfully, until now, they haven't decided. I'm guessing it's against their best self-interest My answer to that would be better education of the community, because one problem that the largest participation that we had to date was the redenomination of DOT back in August 2020, and that was 24% of all token holders. That is kind of disheartening but I believe that this is a phase that all blockchains go through right now, because most token holders are interested in Wenmoon. They have the voting power, but they don't use it because either they don't care or they are only invested in regards to price. In the hands of engaged community members and foundations like the Cardano Foundation or the Web3 Foundation, to educate token holders, on how it's in their best interest to participate. Of course, not everyone can be as well educated, and not everyone can always be interested or know about certain topics. But if we increase participation, then I think that's how we decrease the danger of a few key players making all the decisions. And I include Web3 in that subset of entities. Other than that, I don't think that there is a way to curtail who owns what. I mean, it's a free market. Anyone can go buy DOT, anyone can go buy Cardano, and if they have the money to do it, they can affect decision making. On the other hand, you have the argument that the more you hold, the more invested you are, so it's unlikely that you will make a decision that it's harmful to the entire network, because you're undermining your own holding and your own value. But at the end of the day, I think that having a strong consensus mechanism with regards to both on-chain governance and the actual consensus mechanism that produces blocks, where many people can participate, and incentivize that participation, perhaps through delegation or, as I mentioned before, education. That's, I wouldn't say the silver bullet, but that's where we should be heading. You can force anyone to take interest, but you can try. And I think that's what we should do. We should try to educate token holders that it's not about the price. It's not about Wenmoon. It's about what is beyond that, which then again affects price and affects their holdings. I don't know if I answered your question. I hope I did.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, any blockchain, as just you said, it is going to run into those things. It's just a matter of figuring it out, where exactly those centers of power sort of end up, centralizing or not, and trying to incentivize actually the system in such a way that it does not want to centralize, that it's actually in its best interest to break up those, pockets of power into like multiples of them and push them like to the edges, so that, collectively the value of decision making is much more quality. But, it's, I appreciate the answer.
Definitely. And I would like to share something that is happening right now on the Kusama chain, which I find very interesting, although we are going beyond our allocated time. So perhaps Philip, ask your question, and then if we have some time and people are not starting to leave, I can dive into that.
Well, from my previous experience, I don't think people will leave. I wanted to ask you, I know that Parrot Chain slot auctions are now ongoing, and I know very little about it, so I'm sorry if I say something stupid. But I see, let's say, relatively small amount of slots available. And I wanted to ask you, do you have like hyper competitiveness within your community? Like, do you have, you know, Akala supporters attacking Moonbeam supporters or things like that? Because from our perspective, we have like, you know, 600, 700 proposals in a fund. And, you know, we still, from my experience at least, we still support each other. You know, we support. Very rarely I see, if at any time, you know, someone attacking someone else's proposal for their own benefit. I don't know about voting, maybe someone downvotes, you know, for their own benefit. But still, the community is still, from my perspective, very friendly. But maybe the reason for that is that there are so many, you know, of these proposals, and the stakes are lower. I'm guessing, you know, getting a parachain slot on Polkadot is a much bigger deal than maybe getting $20, $40, $50,000 for your proposal in Catalyst. So I wanted to ask you, is there like animosity, you know, between these entities that you see right now?
Great question. I haven't seen anything like that, but perhaps it's because we are still in the early stages and only the first slots have been, you know, put up for auction. Perhaps as we reach the 100 slots that is the limit, perhaps we will see more of that. Thankfully, for the time being, all parachain candidates have kept things civil, I guess because they feel that there are enough slots to go around for everyone. Of course, there is this, you know, kind of in a joking mood, like who will get the first slot and who will get the second slot, stuff like that. But I don't know if that will become a problem as you know, we reach the 100 slot limit. But at the end of the day, I mean, each parachain does its own thing, so it's up to them to sell themselves to the community, to, you know, gather their votes and to incentivize, of course, participation, because we have the crowd loans where you loan your DOT or your Kusama to a parachain in order to help them get a slot, and in return you get native tokens on the chain. And of course, we have seen situations where each chain tries to do something more, like, okay, a referral bonus or an early bird bonus or liquid tokens, or, you know, stuff like that. As we approach, though, the 100 slots, there is the concept of the relay chain upon the relay chain, the nested relay chain, as we call it, where a parachain basically can become a relay chain itself and thus expand the slots to an even bigger number. So no, we haven't seen that kind of animosity yet. At least I haven't experienced anything like that. And we haven't seen it with proposals either, because, well, there are funds to go around, so you don't have to, you know, beat out the competition to get your share.
One question what we covered before already, for example, in our ecosystem, voting participation, or if you vote, it's rewarded, but quite low. So sometimes we have people, for example, who say, oh, okay, yeah, I vote with 10,000 ADA. How much do I get in return? Yeah. And when they get a response, it's like, what? Only this? That's ridiculous. Why should I vote? On the other side, for example, we have, because we have a plutocratic voting system, we had, for example, a really nice presentation. I think it was last week from the project Vortrag. We covered it a little bit. They made a really nice analysis about, okay, which amount of ADA actually do you need to have also an impact, a real impact in voting, where we discovered, oh, 80% of this room here, your voting doesn't really matter because your impact is so low. So we were sitting in this presentation, said, oh, great. Thanks, Kenrick. You just destroyed our dream of governance. You just told it that our voting participation does not matter. And anyway, so I think when it comes to governance, the incentives and the educations are key. And how do you incentivize voter to participate actively in decision-making processes?
Currently, we don't have some sort of incentive. We have, of course, the staking rewards for participating in consensus, but not for on-chain governance. One thing that we are planning to do, along with the abolishment of the council, is to incentivize delegation of votes. So for a community member that doesn't have the time or the knowledge to follow all the different referenda that's going on chain, they can delegate their vote to somebody they trust and they vote on their behalf. It's like a sort of indirect democracy, but without elections, rather a dynamic, delegation of power. We also have that now, but it costs fees to delegate, and you reserve your funds. We plan to doing that free in order to incentivize that, and perhaps find other ways to incentivize it in order to incentivize participation. But right now we don't have an incentive mechanism. What we do have is the conviction multiplier that I forgot to mention earlier, that can empower a low stake. So let's say that you feel very strongly about a referendum, you have the option to lock your tokens for a longer period of time, and in doing so multiply your stake by a factor of 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 6. Or you can say, I vote with no conviction, I want my tokens unlocked as soon as the referendum ends, in which case your vote is multiplied by 0.1. So even with $1 million, if you vote with no conviction, your vote is only worth 100,000 votes. But if you have 1,000 DOT and you vote with a conviction of the highest conviction, then your vote is multiplied by 6, I believe. So that's kind of the incentive of participating when you feel you don't have as much power as a guy who holds thousands of DOT.
Because I think sometimes in the community we have different layers of community, let's say, and with their own sub-layers. So for example, you have the when moon guys, when limbo guys, okay, say, okay, they are part of the community, but yeah, until you just need a drop of the price, and yeah, the half of them will run away. Let's say, okay, you have people, for example, they are there to say, oh, okay, just hold, and then 5 years, okay, but not hang around. Then you have, let's say, for example, active lurkers who say, oh, okay, they are quite interested, not really involved, are not really active, but always up to date a little bit what is happening in the ecosystem, in the community. And then you have, for example, this hardcores of the community, really this visioners and doers who are really doing. And mostly those are not the people who have a huge budget on a site, for example. Sometimes I think then in blockchain communities, it comes to the problem, those people who are the most engaged, the most involved with the project, with the evolution. They don't really have the stake to say, oh, okay, they're actively able to make decisions on the big scale, for example. because they don't have the resources. They only have their commitments. They only have the engagement. That comes a little bit to the point, okay, how do you sustain this community? Because if you know, hey, those are guys, they are always struggling to bring their project just forward and everything and all this stuff. And you don't even want them to take so much focus on this because you just want them to give an environment in which they simply can go on, build their stuff, do their things. So how do you handle this, for example, in your community to support those? Is there, for example, a direct support from the entities who is able to censor initiatives, projects like this, and to provide any direct support? Or does everything have to run through proposals and the council?
Well, there is the on-chain way of supporting by financially supporting, I mean, which is through spending proposals that go through the council or bounties. And there is also the mechanism of tips, where if I see a community member doing something good, I propose a tip for them, and the tip, and then the council tips accordingly, and they get some funds for their initiative. Although tips are tips, they are small amounts of dough, for individual tasks. For incentivizing entities and projects to build, we also have the off-chain mechanism that is funded by Web3 funds and party funds. We have the Web3 grants, where projects come and they want to build something, they do a proposal, and based on the technical merits of the proposal, they might get a grant to basically kick them off the ground. And of course, there are grants, there are grants that projects that get grants for phase 1 of the project, phase 2, phase 3, and the same thing happens for the proposals on chain. For example, the block explorers get funded by the treasury in order to keep up their operations and to improve the UI and the UX that they offer the users, because they are considered, projects good for the whole ecosystem. And one other thing that we are trying to do, that we are in discussions right now, is basically how to fund community members individually by emulating the grants program, but on a community level. Like, let's say a local Polkadot ambassador wants to do a meetup and with their local community. Through that project that we are considering right now, Web3 would be able to quickly fund them in order, to do what they want to do in their local community, or update the wiki, or do something cool that's not technical. That's not, okay, I want to build this DeFi or BAT wallet or whatnot. So yeah, basically we have these mechanisms: the off-chain that goes out from parity funds, and the substrate builders program that is focused on developers and is funded and supported by parity. And then we have the on-chain mechanism of spending proposals, bounties, and tips. Does that answer your question, Philippe?
Yes.
Awesome.
You always answer the question.
Okay, I would like to bring up this example that I mentioned earlier. Felix, you know that I mentioned it during our call, because I find it very interesting in how on-chain governance and on-chain participation works differently from real world governance. So crowd loans and parachains have not been without controversy, not the kind that Philip mentioned, but projects starting off with a certain promise and then midway changing that. So we had a parachain candidate that started with a cap on Kusama of 400,000 Kusama for their crowd loan, and halfway they reduced that to half because they realized they could not give rewards to everybody if they reached that half. So there was some backlash from the community that wanted that crowd loan canceled. That didn't happen. Everyone got the rewards in the end. But now there is another parachain that, although they said, a parachain candidate, that although they said they wouldn't do any IDO or VC funding, and they would only do the crowd loan, after the crowd loan started, they approached an IDO platform that has a sketchy reputation of being possibly a scam and has nothing to do with Kusama, and they launched there. So there was a backlash from the community that said, hey, you broke your promise. We didn't participate with this information, and we want the crowd loan canceled. And there is an ongoing referendum proposed by the community to cancel that crowd loan. If it passes, which I believe it won't based on how the vote is turning out, but if it passed, it would actually initiate on-chain functions that would cancel immediately the crowd loan. The team could start a new crowd loan again if they wanted, but their current crowd loan would be canceled and everyone who contributed would get their Kusama back. And I find that very interesting. It's a tangible example of the community voicing their concerns and having a way to actually take those concerns and transform them into tangible action. And you know, the vote is put out there for the whole community, and there is actually a decent turnout. But you know, in the real world, that would be very difficult to happen. It's direct democracy at its best, in my opinion. The community having a concern, having something that they want to change, and they have the mechanism to produce that chain, or at least, you know, try to.
So what is the way such a proposal have to pass through in Polkadot?
So a public proposal has to have a supermajority. Basically, that means that the A votes need to be above a certain percentage that is defined by the turnout. The higher the turnout, the lower that percentage gets. So with an ideal of 100% turnout where everybody votes, that percentage would be 50%. So if the ayes were more than 50%, it would pass, otherwise it would fail. The lower the turnout, the higher is the percentage. That's because it's a public proposal, and that differentiates it from a council proposal, where if it's unanimous, it has a negative supermajority bias, where you know, the lower the turnout, the lower the percentage that it needs to pass, and the higher the turnout, the closer it gets to 50%. A council proposal without a unanimous vote, it has a 50%. You know, first pass the vote wins. So yeah, turnout is important. I think that let me check and see if I can give you the numbers if anyone is interested. I think the turnout was about 10%, which means, sorry, I need to load it to see it. But yeah, that's the general idea. So yeah, let's move on, and once it loads, I can give you the specific numbers. Oh, there it goes.
One thing where I see sometimes some issues, let's say, for example, okay, voting is great because, yeah, it allows you to include as many people in the decision-making process. The problem with voting is that it allows as many people as possible to be part of a decision-making process. And sometimes you don't want, for example, when it comes to, for example, let's say it comes to a quite extremely technical decision. Do you really want 70% of the people who vote for it because, yeah, it has been a public idea, a popular idea, and it was well communicated, but actually they don't really know what they are voting for?
Yes, that's a very, very, very good, a very valid concern. In the current system, because of the supermajority vote, a public proposal that, for example, does a runtime upgrade would be difficult to pass without a very, very large majority. So these proposals usually come from the council and the technical committee, and there are mechanisms in place to cancel a proposal that may be malicious or dangerous or tries to do something weird. But yeah, because most of these proposals come from the council and the technical committee, they have a low threshold of passing, so it's easy to pass without the votes of those people that don't understand, and they are generally considered, safe, unless we introduced a bug or something like that. In the model that we are thinking about, different proposals based on whether they are runtime upgrades or simply tips will have different thresholds and would need different majorities in order to pass. So a runtime upgrade would need a strong engagement, and we would have something similar to the technical committee that could whitelist such proposals and give them a lower threshold in order to pass. Do you want people who don't understand all the technicalities to engage? I would say yes. I mean, what's the point in not participating? If you don't understand something and you don't understand it, then perhaps you say, okay, I abstain. I won't vote for that because I don't know what the hell I'm voting for. But at the same time, I would prefer a higher turnout that perhaps aren't sure, but they trust Felix because Felix voted aye or nay, or they trust Michalis because they think that Michalis knows what he's doing when he's actually does not. But at the end of the day, I think that turning up, casting your vote is more important than abstaining if you don't abstain, consciously, if you simply abstain because you don't bother. And I would prefer to see a runtime upgrade fail because a lot of people that didn't know what that was just decided to vote nay, and then give the opportunity to the people that know to educate, hey, you know what? Doing the runtime upgrade that will enable power change is important for this and that reason, than things passing without nobody caring or on what passed and what not, and what that runtime upgrade brings or what that proposal brings to the ecosystem.
Nice point. You have a good heart on the right spot anyway, Michalis. Philip.
Yeah, I love that, that idea, and I love that attitude towards, yes, okay, some people may not know what they're voting for, but it's better for them to have their opinion because it's their chain as much as it is the programmers or whoever else. But also it takes a huge amount of courage, right, to have something that's really maybe critical. And I'm honestly really looking forward to the time where something, let's say a transaction fee base cost on Cardano will be, voted by the wide community. And then you have so many different aspects of it, and you have, stake pool operators will maybe make more money, maybe more money will go to the treasury, but it will be expensive for the people developing applications. So many. I think maybe such an action would even increase, it would definitely increase the conversations, it would definitely increase the, the controversies, but I think in the end, and I agree with you, Michalis, completely, I agree that it has to be, in the end, it has to be a decision of everyone. And I wanted to ask you, yeah, increase the conversation. Nice way, yeah. Nice way of putting it, yeah. Maybe we would have an internal Twitter war, let's see. But do you maybe, I mean, I'm guessing you didn't still have such an event. We didn't in Cardano, at least to my knowledge. I don't think we had such a general vote on some critical system parameter yet. But did you maybe have it? How did that turn out? Was there controversies, or was it still, in a way, whitelisted by a technical committee, or maybe, my idea was, let's say, a technical committee can whitelist like a range of, let's say, fees, or whatever. Let's say we can increase the fee from this amount to this maximum amount to this minimum amount. And basically whatever we choose will not crash the whole chain, right? Maybe, you can choose from that. You cannot put €1,000,000 per transaction, but maybe something like that, at least as a baby step towards a wider thing.
To my knowledge, for the critical upgrades, which are usually, runtime upgrades or lowering the existential deposit on Kusama, stuff like that, I haven't seen any such proposal not passing. Usually because it's brought by the council and fast-tracked by the technical committee, so the requirement to pass is very, very low. It will be interesting to see what happens when we migrate to the governance model that I mentioned, which, to be honest, I'm not at all clear about. I don't think anyone is clear about it. Still in discussion, still in in the workings. But no, to answer your question, I haven't seen any crucial proposals not passing or raising a high amount of controversy. So parachains passed unanimously, but then again, everyone was expecting parachains. And there is an inside joke, Alison will have heard it, that people were messaging our director of education, Bill, constantly, like, when parachains. And we had this joke, like, we imagine Bill in some room having to press a button to launch, parachains. And people did not understand that it's a process. First, to make sure that the code works, and then to actually vote on that. But tangent to your question, Philip, there is currently the discussion of the existential deposit. And to give you some context, the existential deposit is the minimum amount an account needs to hold in order to be active, which on Kusama, it's very, very low, like a few cents. On Polkadot, though, it's $1. And $1 right now is $50. And people are starting to complain that it's too much. And if you do something wrong, and you can lose that $1. So if your account drops below that $1, everything, that every remaining balance gets burned. And I find this a very interesting topic for discussion and education. I mean, anyone can propose to lower the existential deposit on Polkadot to $0.5 or 0.1 dot, or perhaps abolish it entirely. Of course, there is a reason, a very well-founded reason, that the existential deposit is there, but it would be interesting to see the community saying, okay, we don't want the existential deposit, and then have the developers come in and say, you know what, we do need it for this and that reason. That's why it's there. That's why it's 1 dot and it's not $0.5 dot. If it's $0.5 dot, we will have this and that problem. And you know, perhaps people will be engaged. And I assume that this would be a controversial referendum, but you know, nobody has put it to the vote yet. Hopefully, or you know, not hopefully, because it may crash the chain if it passes. But you know, at least it will raise a good discussion, I imagine.
I think that you touched on a point what becomes really important to a transition of power when you have, let's say, the entity that has a desire. They say, for example, wow, this would be awesome when the community would simply do it. The problem very often is that it's not really maybe sometimes communicated to the community. And also to say, hey, okay, when there is a, let's say, coordinated initiative by this, where the, let's say, entity acts as a steward or a shepherd, more in this regard, as a service provider, to say, okay, we can support you. So I think mostly the problem is that sometimes I think there are people in the community who have this idea already. They say, oh, okay, it would be awesome. But they don't know that the entities, maybe they have exactly the same desire. It's not communicated. The community don't know what is the desire from the entity. The entity, sometimes maybe they don't know what is the desire from the community. Sometimes maybe then you have even duplications of effort, because by a lack of communication, you create already an environment where, let's say, oh, okay, we are all on the same page, but we are a little bit in the dark. What do you, because the entities, let's say they are the parents, the community is the children, and the children ask for attention, ask for communication. It says, hey, what should I do? Tell me what to do. I want to prove myself. I want to mature now. I want to be, let's say, from this regard, in this metaphor, for example, I want the parents to be proud of me, okay, in this regard. And sometimes, yeah, the entities, they are too focused on themselves. Sometimes, yeah, because they have to, because they are in a position where they are responsible for everything. When they fail, okay, they are responsible. When the community fails, who's responsible? Is it also the entity who is responsible? Like when your child burns the house, who is responsible? Is it the child or is it the parents? So I think just this communication to, because maybe you said us now, wow, it would be awesome in our community if there would be somebody who would say, hey, okay, 1 dot is too much, let's make it a $0.5 dot or whatnot. But does your community knows about it? For example, do you? So how can, because I think this is something where we struggle a lot in our ecosystem as well, how to generate partnerships between the entities and the community. How can this look like? What needs to happen in this regard? Is the community mature enough already? If it is so, how, when does the entity say, okay, they are mature enough now, they are able to handle it? And how to support them, how to communicate, how to coordinate.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. I feel like we are at a stage right now where the entities, in your analogy, are the parents and the community are the children. And we have like 1 teenager, perhaps 1 adult in the family other than the parents, and all the rest of the children are like infants. I don't mean that in, you know, in an insulted way. I mean it in the way and the extent to which the community is actually involved in what's happening. I think that we will get there. I mean, even in real world examples when societies migrated from feudal model of governance or a monarch to democracy. It took time. It took time for the necessary change in mindset in the community to happen, to bring about the change, and also to accept and absorb the change and the responsibility of the community member in the new form of governance. And I think we are like that in a similar stage right now, where the on-chain governance in general in the blockchain ecosystem gives power to the people, but the people are not yet fully aware of that. Of course, it's the responsibility of these entities that know more to educate the community more. And yes, I have seen it. I have seen it in personal examples where, because I work and I work in anti-scam fights, and I see examples where people, reach out and say, "Hey, this happened." And I'm like, "Come on, do a little research." But then I remember that, hey, at some point I didn't know anything. I didn't know shit when I first started, and I feel it's my obligation to say, okay, this happened for this and that reason. This is what you need to pay attention to in the future, and here are some resources to help you, learn a little bit more. And I feel that education is a slow process. It's a very, very slow process. But we are a young industry. I mean, these are, growing pains that we are going through. And as we move on, as the technology invades more people's lives, and we get closer to what we call mass adoption, people will get more interested in the actual technology and how to participate and affect changes in the technology than they are interested in the price. And as that happens, the price, I feel, will stop fluctuate that much. So people won't be Wenmoon, or people won't be about Shiba Inu. They would be about, what? I want to know what the Circle version 100 is going to do about my problems, or what that referendum is going to do about my on-chain existence. Will we call that the metaverse or whatnot? I don't know. But yeah, I feel it's a little like the Wild West right now. But, the Wild West took a couple of hundred years to become California. I think we'll get there faster, but yeah, it's a process. It's a process for sure, and it requires bi-directional communication. Yeah,
definitely agree, because I think also by communication, sometimes, as we know, as a child, very often in a young age, your parents, they are the heroes. They are Superman and Superwoman and whatnot. And I think even in the regard of community and entities, it's a little bit like this. I think sometimes I would like to have your feedback that I think sometimes the community sees the entities like this almighty, let's say, institutions and everything. But maybe from the entity side, it's much more say, on some regards, for example, to say, hey guys, we know not more than you know. We know as much as you know. And we don't know, but as an entity has to act professional and has to present themselves official as well. It's sometimes quite difficult, so the entity is not allowed to say, hey guys, because they don't want to seem let's say, incompetent, neither. It's difficult maybe for enterprise accounts to say sometimes to the community when it comes, for example, to an important topic, to say, hey guys, to be honest, we have no idea. We have nothing from our side. And on the other side, you have the community who imagines, oh, and for sure they have everything already. They have the whole roadmap. They have the milestones are set in stone already and everything. And then he says, oh, how does the first stepping stone looks like? Fuck, I want to start. What do you think about your community? Is this reality in some regards?
Yeah, it's definitely a reality. I mean, even as a Web3 employee, not the Web3 Foundation, I sometimes feel from community members like, oh, okay, so if Mihaly said it, then it must be true. Okay, and I'm like, no. And many times I have to say, like, this is my personal opinion. It's not some absolute truth. Web3 Foundation doesn't know everything. Parity doesn't know everything. That's for sure. We are figuring things out as well. And I think that this is the biggest transition of power that we have ahead of us. Making Web3 Foundation, Cardano Foundation obsolete, making them so that they don't need to exist, that the community has the power and the knowledge to push things forward and to put runtime upgrades on chain, to push for the proposals that they want, to question and have conversations and push things forward without having a Web3 foundation or a Web3 employee answering the problems, or proposing solutions or funding stuff. We start to see that kind of dissemination of power with parachains, where they start to develop their own foundations, which of course there are still entities, but still not everybody is looking to Web3 for guidance. They now look to the Acala Foundation for their own ecosystem, and this trickles down in some way. So yeah, I mean, I feel that's the biggest goal. That's where we all should be heading, that we don't need these foundations. We don't need these entities that sometimes can be seen as, the gatekeepers, the overlords of the chain, which should definitely not be the case. Sometimes when the kids are young, the parent needs to, grab them before they run across the street in order to protect them. But hopefully, the kids will grow up soon and they can make their own sensible or unsensible decisions. That's really up for debate. But yeah, I do see that. But again, I think it's growing pains, and our communities will grow out of them at some point.
Also, by the growth, there's some interesting thing to observe as well, because, well, on the beginning we have the foundations. They start to build a community, very small on the beginning, and then the community starts to grow, and then it really starts to grow, and it totally starts to grow over the expectations, maybe even from the entities, and they say, "Wow, the ecosystem is expanding, the communities are growing so rapidly. Shit, we as entity, we are not even able to catch up with this growth.
Yeah,
it's just too fast. Fuck, we need to rehire people. We need to somehow and everything, because yeah, hey, we are the protectors. We are the, let's say, something like this. And that, what I see, for example, in our ecosystem, what is extremely interesting to see. For example, we had some weeks ago, it was a short announcement, a small announcement, but IoT said, for example, oh, okay, hey, we are not able, because our funds in Project Catalyst, they're split off in challenges. So as a community member, you can submit a challenge. This challenge acts like a subfund. And in this subfund, it acts as a, let's say, it's a problem. So problem, how to create NFT business models, for example, how to blah, 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 how to X, Y, Z. So each of these challenges acts as a subject. And as the funds double through the funding rounds, we have more challenges as well. And somebody have to check, have to overwatch, have to steward these challenges. So there has been a remarkable, very small statement, but I think some good, but I think it was not so strong communicated that IoT said, hey, we are not able to catch up anymore with all these challenges. Community, build challenge teams. So that the community says, okay, you can sign up, become a challenge team. So I think here now in Fund 7, we will have the very first pilot of this experiment. So to see that the entity there where they see, okay, it's an experiment where we can allow ourselves to accept some risks, because it's always about a risk. You don't know what will happen there. If you allow the community to take the initiative and the responsibility, well, I'd say it's a quite risky investment anyway, especially for something, okay, you want to start small and everything. But to see that as the community grows, as the ecosystem it grows, and entities struggle to catch up, this growth of the ecosystem creates a pressure on the entity itself, the responsibility and the task list and the to-do list of the entities. They just raise and raise and raise. They have more and more and more things to do. And so the growth of the ecosystem forces the entity on a positive way to handle over to the community. Say, okay, how can this partnerships can look like? Can we generate playbooks out of this? Can we figure out some best in practice or whatnot? And for example, this is sad that Antonio isn't here from the IOTA Foundation, because I think they have a remarkable pilot there as well. They call it the Experience Team. And the Experience Team is a team set up from the community, which work on the configuration of smart contracts. And it's stewarded and coordinated from the IOTA Foundation. In exactly the same regard as well. Say, okay, everything is expanding. The entities themselves, they can't catch up anymore. The pressure, the responsibility for the entity rise. And by this, they have to outsource some stuff to the community. For example, in our community, we have another role, for example, the community advisors or the veteran community advisors. Once a proposal is submitted, somehow we have to check the proposal, because we don't want to spend community treasury in weird spams or whatnot for stuff. So everybody can sign up to become a community advisor. Your goal now is to assess the proposal. Once you have been successful a community advisor, you are anonym to the community. Nobody knows that you are a community advisor if you don't want to say it. Once the assessments are done, they're going to be reviewed by the veteran community advisors who have successfully been a CA in the previous funding round. They are not anonymous anymore. They are known. So to have several roles step by step in the community, which are able to take important tasks for the community, sometimes I think we miss it. Sometimes for example, in our community, we have some voices say, yeah, we want to own the treasury. We want to control the treasury. Yeah, but hey, guys, to be honest, if we would own the treasury today, in 1 week, Catalyst wouldn't exist anymore, and Cardano neither. So okay, stay humble. So for example, in your regard, do you have already some, let's say, pilots where you actively work on generating partnerships between entities and the community? And if so, what is the very first step? What's the desired outcome a little bit behind?
Well, I think that if by entities we mean like Web3 Foundation or Acala Foundation, if we are talking about the Acala parachain, the goal of these entities is to take on that leadership role that Peter mentions in the comments, like to be the guides that help the ecosystem grow. So in that sense, the partnerships are basically open to everyone, and of course Parity in the same way looks for not partnerships per se, but ways to help other entities, smaller teams or individuals in the ecosystem to build on the Polkadot ecosystem in order to expand it. So the collaborations, I think, is a better word than partnership. The collaborations that we are looking for is with people that want to build and to expand the Polkadot ecosystem, whether that is a block explorer, whether that is a small project for that could benefit the user, some educational content, or something as big as a complete different chain that can become a parachain. So that's the goal of these entities, as speaking for Web3. I'm guessing other entities that exist in the whole industry, like exchanges, have their own agendas, but I won't go there. But yeah, the goal and the collaborations that we are looking for within the community are collaborations that expand, that empower, and that educate the community and expand the ecosystem. Because I think, and I believe that we will all agree on that we want, our ecosystem to grow and to include not only more members, not only more active members, but also more functionality and more tools and more features in order to go to the Web3 world that we all envision. So yeah, I don't know if that was your question, Felix. I don't know if I answered it, but I would like to comment on what Peter said, which I find very, very interesting. That yeah, people do look for leadership. In our cases, that leadership was imposed, so to speak, because somebody thought of Cardano, somebody thought of Polkadot, they gathered some people around them, they built it. So naturally, from that, Web3 Foundation emerged, Cardano Foundation emerged, and these entities are naturally seen as leaders in the ecosystem. But the interesting thing is that leaders emerge in the process from the community as well. Like all of you guys here participating and taking on responsibilities in order to better the Cardano community. And in our example, we have ambassadors who emerge in their local communities or internationally in order to help and guide the community. Of course, the ambassadors look up for guidance to Web3, and but I foresee that changing in the future. For example, on our Discord server, we have a lot of mods and ambassadors who are actively helping newer members, answer questions, guiding them in the level that personally, and most of the Web3 fellows don't feel the need to be and monitor those discussions because they are doing a great job. Similar thing with the anti-scam initiative that we are having, where community members are engaged and incentivized to fight scams in the ecosystem and, you know, curate basically themselves. So yeah, I believe that leadership starts from somewhere, but then trickles down and natural leaders emerge that at some point will take the torch from us imposed leaders and take the ecosystem further.
And I think especially in regard to leadership, something what I think is beautiful to see in the ecosystem, that leadership gets a little bit redefined, because when you speak in our system, for example, about leaders, those are let's say the leaders in our society are those who have big titles, big qualifications, whatnot. So very much on this level. And I think in our ecosystems, it's much more meritocratic approach of leadership. Like you said, they emerge from this ecosystem. It's not that somebody choose you as a leader. You create yourself this role as a leader with a redefinition of leadership as well. It's not leading others. I think it's much more in this regard of a shepherd. A bad shepherd is in the front of his troop, because if somebody is falling back behind, he's the last one who will recognize it. The good leader is always behind his troop. He's the very first one who recognizes somebody is falling back. And he's the first one who is there and say, hey, what's happening? Okay, let's stop. Lift him up again.
Yeah, true. And you know, in that ways, that's the way that the natural transition of power or leadership in this case happens, when, you know, you are in the back of the pack and you see somebody falling behind, but the next time somebody from the team, from the pack, notices it and they pick them up. Hi, Alison. Yeah, I mean, it's funny sometimes that, you know, coming to what we were discussing earlier, how people, you know, view these entities and people working for these entities like the voice of truth or the absolute authority. I sometimes think that I joined Web3 Foundation in January this year, so my experience with Polkadot is actually very, very limited. And if I have some knowledge, it's because of proximity to people that have more knowledge than me. And it's our duty to make that proximity, or if not proximity, the access to this knowledge more accessible to the wider community, so everyone can become an expert. I definitely don't consider myself an expert, because I constantly discover things and learn stuff that I didn't even know existed in Polkadot. And yeah, I mean, the information is out there. The goal and the duty of us as guardians or leaders in the ecosystem right now is to make sure that information is disseminated to everyone, so everyone can potentially become a leader and take up the torch. Yeah, it is basically.
And also because we are running 3 hours now.
Yes, I think we went over our allocated time a little bit.
Exactly. But to wrap it up a little bit, hey, Michalis, already, thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was an honor and a pleasure.
I think it has an extremely positive value to come together from different chains, to figure out, hey, how is reality look like on your side? And maybe also, well, I'm sure it will not be the last call. Antonio said already, yeah, sorry a lot for not being here today, but he's definitely keen to set up a second one. And also maybe to say, hey, well, it has been the first time, definitely not the last time. And Michalis, how we said already with Antonio also, one goal is really, I think, to explore cross-chain environments where cross-chain collaboration can happen as well. And where I say, hey, the future of blockchain is maybe not one protocol. We are here for diversity. Interoperability is written very big in all of our chains. And maybe the real, let's say, the real extension of blockchain happens not in one chain, it happens between the chains. There where our chains finds together and say, hey, what needs to happen that I have my DID smart contract on one chain, but hey, cool, I can vote on Polkadot stuff. And I'm verified even. Something like this, because I think only then we are able to create a real cyberspace on decentralization, because I think decentralization does not only need to happen in one chain, it also includes all the chains. And there aren't any winners or losers. There isn't an Ethereum killer. When one of the chains goes down, society just loses trust in all of the chains. So it gives us nothing to say who is the strongest one. Also to support with each other. Say, oh, they are struggling, but hey, they are our friends. Let's help them. Because if they sustain, if they become strong, blockchain itself becomes strong. It doesn't matter if it's how it's named, if it's called Cardano or Ethereum or whatnot, IOTA or Polka or Kada or all this stuff. So what would you like to, let's say, don't fix a date, but for our next call, what would you expect, Michal, just to close up?
What would I expect from what? Sorry, I missed you a little bit there.
From a, let's say something in maybe 1 month, 2 months, 2 weeks, whatnot, we don't know yet. Okay, we schedule again something like this. What would be something where you would leave and say, oh yeah, this fucking rocks. This is really.
You know what? I think that this kind of, because at this point we can have actual interoperability and actual communication between the actual chains. I think at this point, this exchange of ideas and knowledge, this is how we do things in that regard. How do you guys do things? These are the problems we are facing. What are your problems? I think this kind of exchange of ideas and how, its community handles that, I think this is very, very valuable at this point. So I don't know about the topic, but definitely something along the lines of, hey, this is how we do things. And this is how we address that problem that you are facing right now. I think I would love something like that. Yeah. In particular, personally, I would love to discuss how you guys fight scams in your ecosystem, because that's my purview. And I know that you are doing some things. So yeah, I would definitely be interested in that.
Love it.
Awesome.
Yeah, Danny, you have to handle a lot of this stuff. What's to say, Danny is he's a community manager. Extremely good guy, Danny. Thanks also for being here. how we said, we don't know if he ever sleeps. I don't even start to highly distrust your existence, because it's just fucking not possible.
Like you said, it's Daniel 35789.
Exactly.
Sorry, that one already had to take off. I'm 578999-67.
Nice. Next one. All right.
Well, this was great. Really appreciate it, Felix. Thank you for setting this up. I think we can just do a lot more of that. Like, very often we get zoned into whatever we're doing, right? And then we forget that there's a world outside of us. And sometimes other people are, tackling exactly the same things, sometimes not as much, but very often, like, maybe we can learn from each other's sort of, hey, you learned that door doesn't open. Great. We can learn not to open that, and we can go try another one and be more efficient and whatnot. And together we're all trying to make the world a little bit better place than it was yesterday. And, it sounds cliche, but I think that's why we are all spending our time here on Saturdays and all kinds of weird days to push that needle forward. So Michalis, I appreciate you spending your time with us here today as well, because you didn't have to. No one actually had to on this call. So that's the beauty of it.
And
definitely. And again, thank you very much for inviting me. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and the whole proceedings.
And Michalis also, huge respect, because I think it's not the easy choice to say, okay, you come as a single person in the ecosystem, stand your ground, you're open to the questions. So, dude, you're an amazing good guy. I consider you as a friend.
And I think there's an opportunity, if there was something that you would like us to reciprocate, that you guys hang out. I know that Felix said that you guys are extremely technical. I think we have a lot of technical people that would love to learn probably a bit more about what you guys are up to. But, a more lighthearted conversations on like philosophical level, you see, there's a lot of us here. So we always enjoy those conversations, trying to see where they go. So perhaps, next time we can meet on your side. So you were brave enough to come to ours. Well, let's see if we can come, if we are brave enough then to also come to your side. So I would appreciate it very much, actually. So
yeah, we'll definitely look into that.
We are brave enough, you know it then. All right. Hey,
thank you very much, guys, for inviting me. Thank you for a very, very interesting conversation. And I'm actually kind of excited to hearing the results of today's election. I hope Allison wins. Sorry to the other candidates, but
is she the Trojan horse?
What?
Is she the Trojan horse?
I think she's the Trojan horse for Polkadot. not the other way around.
I really was thinking of voting for Allison instead of myself.
Yeah, sorry, Eli. I thought your presentation was very, very good as well, but personal preferences. But I didn't vote, honestly. Thank you very much, guys, and I hope we have a chance to have something like that again soon.
Definitely.
Thank you for inviting me. Have a